2040. While flying over the Indian Ocean, south of Java, a strange phenomenon suddenly appeared on the windshield of the Boeing 747. St. Elmo's fire, a natural occurrence generated in electrically charged storm areas or near volcanoes. This significantly reduced the crew's visibility, signaling that a disaster was imminent. Right in front of the aircraft was a violently erupting volcano. All passengers were petrified, but this was not their greatest fear. The biggest problem was that all engines had consecutively failed and were engulfed in flames. Nearly 300 lives were now teetering between life and death. Would God hear their prayers, or would a superhero miraculously save the flight? Or would the aircraft crash into the volcano and plunge into the frigid waters of the Indian Ocean? June 24, 1982, Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport, Malaysia. 1900 hours British Airways. Flight 9, also known as Speedbird 9, an international flight from London Heathrow to Auckland, New Zealand, was making a refueling stop before continuing its 5-hour journey to Australia. The flight was operated by a Boeing 747, one of the largest passenger aircraft in the world. A total of 263 people were on board, including 248 passengers and 15 crew members. The captain, Eric Moody, was 41 years old and an experienced glider pilot, a crucial detail given the events that would unfold. The first officer, Roger Greaves, was 32, and the flight engineer was Barry Towney Freeman. At exactly 8 p.m. local time, the aircraft took off, its engines roaring down the runway as it headed southeast toward Australia. Captain Moody stabilized the aircraft at 37,000 feet, allowing the crew to relax. At 20:15, the flight attendants began serving dinner. The main course on the menu was satay, a Malaysian delicacy. However, just 40 minutes after takeoff, danger loomed. 2040, the beginning of the ordeal. The aircraft was flying over the Indian Ocean, south of Java, Indonesia. Unbeknownst to the crew and passengers, they were directly above Mount Galunggung, an erupting volcano that had been spewing lava and volcanic ash into the atmosphere for months. In the 1980s, knowledge of volcanic ash hazards was still limited, so no warnings had been issued. After finishing his meal, Captain Moody handed control to First Officer Greaves and went to the restroom. Before leaving, he checked the weather radar again. Everything appeared normal. However, upon his return, he was shocked. A strange blue glow, resembling lightning, flickered across the windshield. The mesmerizing sight prompted Flight Engineer Freeman to exclaim, "Look at that! It's beautiful!" What they were witnessing was St. Elmo's fire, a phenomenon named after St. Elmo, the patron saint of sailors. According to legend, St. Elmo's fire was a warning of impending disaster. Captain Moody checked the radar again. Still no sign of a storm or turbulence. Meanwhile, in the passenger cabin, smoke began accumulating. Initially thought to be cigarette smoke, it grew thicker, carrying a distinct sulfuric smell. Some passengers near the windows noticed an eerie blue glow illuminating the engine fans, creating a stroboscopic effect. 2 minutes later, all 4 engines failed. 2042, engine failure. At 2042, Jakarta time, engine number 4, Rolls-Royce RB211, surged and caught fire. Captain Moody immediately shut it down, cutting off fuel supply and activating the fire extinguisher. Fortunately, a Boeing 747 could still fly with 1 engine out. But less than a minute later, at 2043, engine number 2 surged and caught fire. Within seconds, engines number 1 and number 3 followed suit. The aircraft was now a powerless glider, losing altitude every passing minute. To maintain safe speed, Captain Moody pointed the nose downward. Meanwhile, First Officer Greaves and Flight Engineer Freeman frantically attempted to restart the engines. Without thrust, the Boeing 747 had a glide ratio of 15:1, meaning for every 15 kilometers it traveled forward, it lost 1 kilometer in altitude. Captain Moody calculated they had only 169 kilometers and 23 minutes left before crashing. At 2044, First Officer Greaves declared an emergency. Mayday, ATC, this is BA9. We have lost all 4 engines. We need immediate assistance. However, Jakarta Air Traffic Control misinterpreted the message, believing only engine number 4 had failed. Try to manage with 3 engines. We will guide you to the nearest airport in Jakarta. Fortunately, a nearby Garuda Indonesia flight relayed the correct distress call. Despite setting their transponder to emergency code 7700, the Jakarta ATC radar could not detect them. The situation was dire. Without power, reaching 12,000 feet to clear the mountain range seemed impossible. If they couldn't maintain altitude, the only option was to ditch in the Indian Ocean, a maneuver never attempted in a Boeing 747. A critical decision. At 26,000 feet, cabin pressure plummeted and oxygen masks deployed. However, First Officer Greaves's mask malfunctioned. Its oxygen supply had detached. Without sufficient oxygen, he would soon lose consciousness. Captain Moody faced a critical choice: either descend to save his co-pilot or remain at their precious altitude to attempt engine restarts. He decided to descend. As the aircraft rapidly lost altitude, passengers were thrown forward, choking on thick smoke. Panic set in. To calm them, Captain Moody made an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We have a small problem. All 4 engines have stopped. We are doing our utmost to restart them. Please do not be too concerned. Despite the dire situation, the passengers grew eerily quiet. They resigned themselves to their fate, believing death was imminent. At 13,500 feet, 4,100 meters, First Officer Greaves regained consciousness. The crew kept trying to restart the engines, refusing to accept failure. However, looming ahead was a mountain range. At 12,000 feet, they had to decide: ditch into the ocean or keep fighting. Then at 2056, a miracle happened. Engine number 4 roared back to life. Moments later, engine number 3 restarted. As the aircraft began to climb, engines number 1 and number 2 also reignited. The crew and passengers erupted in cheers. Final challenges and safe landing. With engines running again, Captain Moody requested permission to climb to 15,000 feet to clear the mountains. Permission was granted and they successfully navigated past the peaks. But just as they reached altitude, St. Elmo's fire returned and engine number 2 began shaking violently. Captain Moody shut it down to prevent catastrophic failure, leaving them with 3 engines. As they approached Jakarta, volcanic ash obscured the windshield, severely reducing visibility. The crew had to attempt a near-manual landing. To make matters worse, ATC informed them the airport's vertical navigation system was inoperative. They had to rely solely on the distance measuring equipment DME approach method. Then Captain Moody spotted a small clear patch on the windshield, giving him a partial view of the runway. With First Officer Greaves guiding him, the Boeing 747 successfully landed. Passengers and crew embraced, celebrating their miraculous survival. Investigation and legacy investigations revealed that the aircraft had flown through a cloud of volcanic ash, which was dry and undetectable on weather radar. The ash deprived the engines of oxygen, caused windshield abrasion, and clogged the engines. Once the aircraft descended out of the ash cloud, the molten ash solidified and broke away, allowing the engines to restart. Captain Moody and his crew received numerous accolades, including the Queen's Commendation for Valuable Service and the Guild of Air Pilots and Air Navigators Award. Flight 9 became the longest recorded gliding flight of a non-glider aircraft in Guinness World Records, a remarkable testament to human resilience and skill. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss any exciting content. Turn on the notification bell to get the latest updates as soon as we upload. Like and share to support the channel. Thank you.